Hey people, John here from Fast Films, and today we're going to go through a 2021 crime thriller movie called Till Death. The movie's first scene shows Emma checking out the scenery from Tom's skyscraper apartment. Tom, her lover, walks close to her and almost touches her. However, Emma refuses his advances, telling him he needs someone better than her. She then walks over to the bathroom to take a look at herself. Tom walks near her and caresses her. Emma tells him they have to stop their affair. She walks out of the apartment afterward and drives home. In the next scene, Emma walks to her husband's office one morning and is given flowers by the receptionist. She receives them and waltzes to an office where she sees some files on the table and gently checks them out. Upon opening it, she recognizes the man in the picture. Just as she's about to discover something, her husband, Mark, walks in. Emma immediately hides the photo and sweet-talks her husband. He pulls out the picture from her hand nonetheless and tells her not to hurt herself since the man there hurt her once. Then, Emma asks him some questions about his work, and Mark says he likes where he is at the moment, the top. After their discussion, the duo board the elevator to the ground floor. They come across Tom on the way down, who joins them. Apparently, Tom was Emma's lover and also Mark's employee. Mark gets into some small talk with Tom, as he asks him whether or not he's familiar with Emma, his wife. Tom denies knowing her, but Mark reminds them of how they met. Emma stays behind the two men and almost passes out listening to them talk. However, she survives the entire ordeal as Tom leaves the elevator halfway. Up next, Mark and Emma celebrate their wedding anniversary. They give each other gifts, with Mark giving her a diamond necklace. Emma accepts the necklace and watches across the table as a man proposes to his woman. Mark calls her back to the table and gets his own gifts. He rejects her ticket to the Super Bowl this time because they weren't as good as the last year. After putting on her necklace, Emma gets to the bathroom. There, she meets the girl who was proposed to, sobbing quietly. She tries to offer some words of comfort. However, she's shunned. Upon getting back to the restaurant, she joins her husband and they leave for their home. Outside, Mark gives Emma a blindfold and drives her somewhere. After driving for quite some time, Emma gets restless and almost removes the blindfold. However, Mark puts it back in place and continues his drive. Eventually, they get to a place Emma called the Lake House. The next scene shows Emma walking through the rooms and sees rose petals placed on the floor. She reads a romantic note on the table and walks towards the door, locks it, and checks out another room. There, she sees photos of herself and her husband in the past. Then she plays a record player and walks further upstairs. She stops in front of a room and enters it. She meets up with Mark, who apologizes for being a jerk to her for quite some time. After all the small talk, they get under the sheets. The next morning, Emma wakes up to a deranged Mark, who asks her how she was feeling the next morning. She says she feels fine and then finds out she's been handcuffed to her husband. Before she makes do of her situation, Mark finishes himself off. Unable to think straight, Emma struggles desperately to release herself from the handcuffs. After some time, she dials in some numbers on a cell and the line goes flat. She then tries to shoot the handcuffs, all to no avail. Shortly afterward, Emma drags her husband, Mark, to a secluded room and sees her wedding dress hanging in front of a secured safe. She takes the dress, puts her husband on it, and drags him further down the stairs. Upon getting to the front porch, she sees how hopeless her situation was. It was snowing hens and chickens out there. Emma walks back in to try a different approach. She sees her phone in a flower vase filled with water. She tries to switch it on, but it doesn't work. Then she tears some parts of her dress, wraps it around her legs, and drags her husband's body all the way to the car in the garage. Upon entering the car, the alarm blasts off. She pulls out the key and starts the engine. Unfortunately for Emma, her victory is short-lived as the engine dies down. Just then, Mark's voice comes on from the speakers, telling her that he knew of the affair between Emma and Tom, and that this way was the best way of delivering his revenge to her. Emma gets out of the car and hauls herself and the body back to the main building. There, she washes her face and finds out the necklace Mark gave her earlier was unremovable. She cusses a little and then gets to the basement to find some kind of cutting tool so she could saw off the handcuffs binding her to her husband's body. Upon getting there, she finds nothing. Disappointed, Emma drags herself and the body back upstairs to the living room. Getting there, she walks back to the room which had her picture and her husband's all over. There, she sees the same man she saw in that file in Mark's office and has a flashback to a terrible experience. Now back in reality, she finds a recorder, switches it on, and listens to her testimony about the man who's attacked, the mysterious man in Mark's office file. After freaking out a little bit, Emma hears a vehicle stopped outside the building. She rushes quickly to lock the door and hits Tom's nose. Upon finding out it was Tom, she asks him what he's doing there. Tom says she sent him a message about needing his help urgently. Emma tells him she didn't send the message and opens the door for Tom. Seeing the terror unfold, Tom enters the house and informs Emma that Mark was being prosecuted by the DA for tampering with evidence on multiple cases. Emma sighs as she realizes Mark literally had nothing to live for anymore. Tom then tells Emma to manage the truth. However, Emma breaks it to him that Mark probably has plans to terminate the both of them, and that's the reason why he called Tom here. Tom realizes this and walks to get his phone from the car. As he's about to step out, he notices a car up front, tells Emma to lock the door while he answers to the visitors. The vehicle stops in front of the property, and Mr. Webster comes out with some equipment to fix some burst pipes. Tom thanks him and pays him off instead. Before the plumber goes, he asks if he could use the facilities. Tom refuses to let him in the house, and things get tense as Tom gets suspicious. As the heat tenses up between the two, someone else steps out of the car and takes out Tom. After doing the vile act, he breaks down the door. Thankfully, Emma was already in hiding. The brothers enter the building to look for Emma. Jimmy urges his older brother, Bobby, to give up their chase and leave. However, Bobby argues that they should stay and find Emma. Meanwhile, Emma successfully drags her husband's body out of the house to another building on the property. There, she finds an axe and cuts off Mark's fingers one by one. Before she's done, Jimmy walks into the same building and sees only Mark's body. He rushes out to call his elder brother, and upon getting to the building with his brother, they find only Mark's brother with Emma lying under a wooden structure behind the duo. After identifying the body, Jimmy urges his brother to break into the safe and leave the house without terminating the girl. Bobby begs to differ, as Emma was the next person after Mark to know the password to the safe. He leaves the building and gets back to the house. Inside, Bobby finds out they need both a fingerprint and a passcode to open the safe. Just then, he splits the job between the two of them. He finds Emma while Jimmy hauls Mark's body back to the main building. Emma manages to drag a jerry can filled with gas to the car in the garage. With Bobby on the hunt for poor Emma, he follows his senses to the same garage. Thankfully, she hides under the car and gets out as soon as Bobby punctures one of the tires. Now outside, Emma spots Jimmy carrying Mark's body to the main house. She finds a hatch near her, opens it, and gets back to the main house. Bobby passes through the same hatch and approaches the basement. Jimmy also walks near the basement's entrance from the main building. Fortunately for Emma, the car alarm blasts off before the duo could get too close for comfort. After hearing the loud alarm, Jimmy and Bobby rush back to the garage to check out what's wrong. Getting there, they try to switch it off. Meanwhile, Emma walks out of her hiding spot with the car keys in her hands. She walks over to Tom's corpse and sheds a little tear for him. Back outside, Bobby and Jimmy get into an argument as Jimmy gets scared of Emma's sudden appearance and disappearance. Bobby tells him they have to get the money in the safe and also exact revenge on Emma for putting him behind bars, like she'd do that if he was a normal human. Jimmy reasons with his brother as they both walk back to the house. Bobby goes upstairs and hears a sound in the attic. He pulls down the ladder, climbs up in there, and is attacked by Emma from behind. This attack sends him slamming down into the ceiling and landing back on the floor of the main house. Jimmy hears the crash and rushes back upstairs. He sees his brother passed out and tries to wake him up. Before he's able to do anything, Emma hits him in the head with the golf club and rushes outside to drive their car and escape. Bobby follows suit and stops her from calling 911. Jimmy comes by seconds later and urges his brother to leave the woman alone. Bobby tells him no and ushers him inside. Then he knocks out Emma, who was pulled out of his car earlier. Moments later, Emma wakes up and finds herself handcuffed to her husband's body again. As she comes back to reality, Bobby asks her for the safe's password. She says she doesn't know about the password and annoys Bobby in the process. Just then, Bobby walks close to her and prepares his knife to cut her fingers off. Before he does the horrendous act, Jimmy holds him at gunpoint, telling him to leave Emma's fingers intact. Bobby obeys his brother and chastises him on what to do. Jimmy then urges Emma to give him the safe's password so they can just leave her alive. Emma accepts the offer and waits for Jimmy to release the handcuffs. Upon releasing it, Emma tells him the password. Bobby immediately drags Mark's body and uses his fingerprint to open up the safe. After inputting the password, he takes out a note which read, "The diamonds you seek lay close to her heart." Hearing this, Emma realizes the necklace was the fortune in the safe. After many failed attempts to remove the necklace from her neck, Bobby decides that they have to cut her head off. Jimmy doesn't approve of this, so he tries to stop his brother from taking out Emma. Sadly, in all the ruckus, Jimmy gets taken out. Emma quickly takes Bobby's knife and attacks him with it. They engage in a fight which ends with Bobby getting hit on the head and Emma being punctured in the leg. Eventually, Emma handcuffs Bobby to Mark's body and gets to the garage. There, she desperately starts the engine, drives the snow-covered vehicle outside, and crashes a few yards further. Bobby follows her onto a frozen lake with Mark's body in his hands. He later catches up to her and engages in a fight with her. This time, the ice breaks and the trio fall into the freezing water underneath. With the knife in Bobby's chest and Mark's body dragging further into the water, he still tries to attack Emma, who takes out the knife and punctures one of his eyes. Bobby drowns afterward, and Emma luckily finds a thin layer to break out of. As she breathes in her second chance at life, Emma removes her ring and lets it slide into the deep. Just then, the police arrive and the movie ends. Thanks for watching, guys.